Private members' business. Notice number 3, motion relating to suicide.
I give the call to the member for Latrobe.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The motion is obviously about suicide, and some of the statistics which have been circulated are very, very concerning. Suicide is the leading cause of death in Australia for men under the age of 44 and women under the age of 34. ABS data shows in 2009 that more people die from suicide deaths than road deaths. How tragic is that? Approximately 1 million people die by suicide each year worldwide. In Australia, more than 1 in every 10,000 people takes their own lives each year. These are the cold, hard facts of suicide. Sadly, my own electorate of Latrobe, we are not immune from these tragedies, like all parts of Australia. As a former police officer at Knox Criminal Investigations Branch and Boronia Criminal Investigation Branch, each week our office would attend at least and investigate one suspicious death which was a result of suicide. I cannot recall how many suicide notes I've read, as that is the key to find out when you undertake an investigation, some sort of reason why. The reason, obviously, when you speak to family and relatives, never makes sense. And I do have a message for people out there who, and quite often you'd read this in suicide notes, where they believe that taking of their life would in some way release the burden off the others. Can I say it doesn't do that at all? It just causes enormous stress and grief for family members and friends who have to live with this for so many years. I've had several conversations with Minister Dutton and organisations such as Headspace in efforts to address some of these concerns. Headspace is a National Youth Mental Health Foundation. They help young people who are going through tough times. A Headspace facility, and I'm so pleased to say this, will be located at the Fountain Gate Shopping Centre in Narre Warren, and I'm working hard, very hard, to get a Headspace unit facility in the Belgrave Health Hub, and I'll make this a major priority for the people of the Dandenong Ranges. Before I go on, I'd just actually like to congratulate the member for Holt, because I know he's been a true supporter and he's been out there in the front line trying to prevent youth suicide in Latrobe, and we've had awful situations in Latrobe, and I congratulate him for that. Recently, through the government's Hotspots program, we have organised to put up safety barriers along train lines where some of these youth tragedies have occurred. Sadly, way too many have occurred. The government's Hotspots program is an excellent example of practical measures to reduce suicide hotspots through the implementation of capital works. And again, also congratulate the principal of Cambria College in Berwick, Mr Michael Muscat, who campaigned also tirelessly for these protective barriers. Another great government initiative is a Living for Everyone, or LIFE for short. LIFE is evidence-based strategic policy framework for suicide prevention in Australia. The reasons that people take their own lives are so complex. The balance between risk factors and protective factors seems to be an indicator of the likelihood of someone taking their own life, the experts say. People who take their own lives usually have many risk factors and few protective factors. But this does not explain everything about suicide. Many people with multiple risk factors do not attempt to take their life, and some that do take their lives have few risk factors. As I said before, the reasons that people take their life are complex. However, we do know that a significant risk factor can be depression and anxiety. And also, when I speak to young people at schools, I always tell them that when they have messages on Facebook, because cyberbullying is obviously very prevalent now, that a friend does not abuse them and degrade them and bring them down. And I always say, rather than go and look at that message or conversation every day, just delete and block that person because they are not your friend. There are many organisations here and around the world who try to prevent people from taking their own lives. Beyond Blue is an organisation set up by the previous Victorian Premier, Jeff Kennett, in October 2002. It's doing a fantastic job. In my last conversation with Jeff, he was talking about the axis of evil, and that's what comes first. Is it the drugs and the alcohol, or the depression or the anxiety? The Beyond Blue mission is to focus depression away from a mental health service issue towards one which is understood, acknowledged and addressed by the wider community. Most Australians have some experience with anxiety, depression or related condition. Whether they've experienced it themselves or had a family member, friends or work colleagues go through it. Beyond Blue work is aimed at achieving an Australia community that understands depression and anxiety, empowering all Australians at any stage of their life to seek help. And this seems to be the key. We all need to get people who suffer with depression and anxiety to seek help. You see, depression and anxiety are treatable. But to have it treated, you and the people around you need to recognise troublesome depression and anxiety when it presents itself. But a problem with mental illness and things like depression, especially in the past, there was a stigma attached. Can I say these days are very much the old days, and people respect you if you inform your work colleagues and others, and obviously friends and family, that you do have depression and anxiety, because they can help you along your journey to recovery. We're lucky organisations like Beyond Blue are educating the community to the seriousness of this disease, and there are many other fine organisations doing great work in this area. Lifeline, the Black Dog Institute, Sane Australia and Headspace are just some of the organisations where people can seek help. And that brings me again to my point. The Dandenong Rangers desperately needs a Headspace unit, and that would be my priority. But as I said before, you and people around you need to identify the problem. A very good start is your local GP, and they can understand and help you get the care and treatment you need. I would imagine that community awareness is causing more and more people to seek help, and that is obviously a great thing. Another aspect of suicide that causes unbearable grief is the people who are left behind when someone takes their own life. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and for young people, their school colleagues. And again, I've been there and spoken to the relatives and the friends afterwards, and you are not doing anyone any favours. In actual fact, you're causing huge grief. So seek help and seek support. The recent tragedy of Robin Williams taking his life, such a talented man, such a funny man, so successful. People who did not know Robin Williams grieved openly. Why did he do it? How could he do it? And there are so many examples of high-profile people who, here and overseas, have taken their lives. So here in Canberra, in the big place, we need to understand the significance of suicide on our country. Indeed, we're not immune. People in this place have been touched by suicide, so what can we do as members of Parliament? Sure, providing funding for mental health initiatives is greatly important. Providing capital works funding through things like Hotspots program to help minimise self-harm. But we need to do more. We as politicians need to do more. We need to talk about mental health in our electorates. We need to recognise when someone has a problem in our community and ask them to get help and seek help for them. And again, I congratulate the member for Goldstein, Andrew Robb, for what he has done to promote mental health in this place. Coming out as he so publicly did, declaring he had a problem with depression and then set about fixing it is so commendable, and he's an inspiration for all of us. And now look, he's a minister doing amazing work, free trade agreements and investments for Australia. Again, as a police officer, I attended so many suicides, and I must say, for all those involved in the emergency service, that they are also, some ways, lived with this for many years. So in conclusion, we should recognise the impacts that depression, anxiety and suicide has on our community. We should all promote that people need to seek help when there are signs of problems and try to minimise the social stigmas of mental health whenever they occur. Thank you.
I thank the member for Latrobe. However, I would ask the member for Latrobe to formally move the motion.
The motion states, notes with concern that over the past 5 years... I move the motion.
I thank the member for Latrobe. Is there a seconder for the motion? I thank the member for Dobie.